Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tommy John studio in New York City. I am your host, Charlie DiSturco, and this is Green Dot Daily, live every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Action YouTube channel and the Action app. How the quarterback matchup stands entering this one. Baker Mayfield has been mighty impressive, but can he hold on? We've got an NFC South matchup on prime time tonight, the first of 55 straight days of football in the college and NFL. Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen will break this one down in just a sec. We got a total prop and a couple of player props from the two of them in general, and then they're going to have their flight to St. Martin for Action Island. Brian Matthews hops on for a little four-down territory as well, and Billy and Award and I are going to concoct an SGP north of 8-1. Of course, it's also Action Island coming up with Gilles Gallant, Nick, and Sean later in the show. It's a football-only show as expected on Thursday, but let's go Mets, right? And speaking of this matchup between the Bucs and the Falcons, let's take a deeper look at how the quarterback matchup stands. Baker has Tampa Bay in the number one slot in the NFC South through 4 weeks. He's thrown for just under 1,000 yards and has a 4-1 touchdown to INT ratio. Kirk Cousins, meanwhile, a bit rusty off his Achilles, throwing just as many touchdowns as he has interceptions. His completion percentage slightly worse, as well as the Falcons barely eked out a win last week against New Orleans, and now they have an NFC matchup with their another division rival, the Bucs, as we welcome in Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen to give out, talk a little bit more about this Thursday night football game. Sean, I'm going to kick it to you first. You had a write-up over on actionnetwork.com where people can, read more in-depth analysis about this game. There's also a lean on a player prop when it comes to defensive side of things. But take me through the total on this one. I know, it could get pretty ugly pretty quick.
Yeah, so I'm on the under. I got it at 44. I still like it at under 43.5 right now. But I gave a bunch of reasons why I like the under. But first and foremost, Kirk Cousins was already a statuesque quarterback. But following his Achilles tear last year, he's been as mobile as a mole Santa in the pocket this season. According to Next Gen Stats, 94% of his pass attempts have come from inside the tackle box, by far the highest rate in the league. So he's just living in the pocket. And Todd Bowles loves the blitz, and I think this is the perfect matchup for him to really dial it up here. Kirk Cousins has really struggled against the blitz this year. I'm guessing because, he doesn't have the mobility he once has, which wasn't even that great then. So I think we're going to see a ton of blitzes tonight. It's going to, lower Cousins' efficiency even more. And to make matters worse, he's going to be without his starting center, Drew Dahlman, who's on IR, so he's at least out an extra couple games. And Dahlman ranks 5th among 37 qualified centers in PFF grade, while his replacement, Ryan Newsel, sits dead last. So it's a significant downgrade. It could cause even more pressure, more bad throws from Cousins here. And on the other side, Baker Mayfield's been great, but new Bucs OC Liam Cohen is really, putting together a very conservative passing attack for him. Baker's getting rid of the ball at the fastest rate of his career. His ADOT is only 5.6 yards downfield, which is the second lowest in the league. He's throwing deep at the second lowest rate this season. So it's a much more conservative passing attack that should get the job done here, but it's going to, kill some clock. And I think this will be a lower game than people think. Oh, and Ron Torbert's the ref for tonight's game. He's been the most profitable ref since 2020. 62% of the games he's officiated have gone under. Wow. So a lot of different signals here for the under.
Love another ref stat to help guide the total on this one. And listen, it makes sense. Like, I was looking through this game. You guys know how I am. I like to bet overs, and I'm looking around and I'm like, where can I find an over? And it's really far and few between where I can find value where I thought this matchup can kind of take off. It does feel kind of like an under game. It kind of makes sense too. Division matchups, you're going to have two familiar teams, and Kirk Cousins, you mentioned it. I don't know if you saw the graphic up there, Sean, but we did end up having an image of Kirk Cousins as a mall Santa, because that's exactly what he is. So the under from Sean, and now we're on to player props in this one. Mr. Nick Giffen, you are up first, my friend. Where are you headed for your favorite prop?
Yeah, well, we're going to go opposite of a prop I went earlier this year, and we're going to go with Kirk Cousins over half an interception. You can get that -108. Remember earlier this year, I gave out his under after people were all over his over because, it seemed like he was just throwing interceptions left and right after week one. But I'm taking over this time instead of under. So Kirk Cousins, he has the second most turnover-worthy plays so far this season among all quarterbacks. And as Sean alluded to in his game preview that he wrote up on actionnetwork.com and the Action app, Kirk Cousins has struggled versus the blitz, and also just in terms of overall versus pressure with interceptions. He has a 10.5% turnover-worthy play rate versus pressure. That's third worst among all qualified quarterbacks so far this year. So a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that he is statuesque and is not able to evade that pressure very easily. So he has to make more rushed throws and into bad situations there. And Tampa Bay does, while they only get the 13th highest pressure rate, that still ranks second out of the 5 opponents Atlanta will have faced so far this year. So, Kirk Cousins has had a lot of issues with pressure, even against teams that haven't gotten a lot of pressure this year. Tampa Bay also has the 5th most passes defended this year, but they've come in about 1.5 to 2 interceptions under expectation based off that number of passes defended. So they've been a little bit unlucky. So if the market isn't adjusting for that luck factor there could be some hidden value on that Kirk Cousins over half an interception as well. And also, we all know about Kirk Cousins in prime time. Well, on Thursday night, specifically on that short week, he has 12 interceptions in 10 Thursday night football games. And even when we just look at the indoor subset of that, he has 5 interceptions in 6 indoor Thursday night football games. So I like Kirk Cousins to throw an interception in this one, and that'll correlate with the under as well.
Yeah, it really feels like, looking back at Kirk Cousins, 3 picks, or 4 total, but 3 picks in 4 games thus far this season. Tampa Bay also Bulls. You're expecting from Tampa to bring the blitz and bring the blitz heavy, which Sean kind of mentioned in his analysis as well. All this aligning, kind of why sneak peek, I kind of like Ray McLeod to maybe do some damage just because of the low ADOT and the amount of blitzes that he will see. I know Nick, by the way, has one more prop coming. That's an official prop coming as part of Action Island, which obviously we'll get to later in the show. But Sean, you're up. Your prop is best available at BetMGM for those watching, and you can also get Caesars if you're limited at MGM, which they tend to do. So those are the 2 areas where I would target. Sean, please tell us what your favorite prop is of the game.
And I like this pretty much wherever you can get it, but it's Rashad White of the Buccaneers under 9.5 rush attempts. Like you mentioned, it's -110 right now at BetMGM. I would project a fair price closer to -150, and even then I might even take it. I love the under here. White was one of my top bust candidates in fantasy football heading into this season because I was concerned that 4th round rookie Bucky Irving could cut into his workload and potentially even take over as the lead back in this offense, even if White stayed healthy all season. And we actually saw that start to come to fruition last week, where both these backs pretty much split the work right down the middle. White is an excellent pass catching back, so he's still dominating those pass heavy snaps on 3rd down, and especially, the 2-minute offense where the team probably isn't running many plays anyway. And however, like the first 3 games, he was the goal line back. He had 3 goal line carries, failed to score a touchdown on any of them. Last week, he had 0 carries in the goal line. That was all Bucky Irving. Had 3 rush attempts at the goal line, converted one of them for a touchdown. So I think this week we could see Bucky Irving get those goal line carries. Those are always great to kind of rack up rushing attempts. It's kind of a cheap way to clear these types of props. So that's going against White again, tonight. And he's averaged 10.3 rush attempts a game this year, despite like near perfect conditions to clear this prop time and time again. I mean, the Buccaneers have had the lead for 60% of their offensive snaps this season. And he's still only averaging 10 rush attempts. So a game where, they're 2.5-point underdogs, they might actually be trailing at some point, means that, the rush volume might be even lower. And last week he had 6 rush attempts heading into the final drive in a game they were up by 15 plus points most of the time, and he needed 4 carries in a row to barely clear this number with 10. So again, just with perfect situations, he's still barely clearing this. I think the time to invest in his under is tonight. I'm giving him like a 62% chance to stay under double-digit carries here.
I don't know if this will make you feel better or worse about this pick, Sean, but I very much see it and like it, like an under for Rashad White. It makes sense. Everything that you said like checks out in my opinion. Looking at, I like Bucky Irving a lot in this matchup, and it makes sense that like Rashad White. You look at the numbers, like stats don't lie. At a certain point, you have to make the adjustment.
Yeah.
If a guy's averaging over 3 yards per carry more than you, then at a certain point, you're relegated to the receiving back role. And that's exactly where White has started to become when you look at snap counts, you look at just touches in general. So you guys are both going to come back on for Action Island. Before we let you go, before your trip, I do want to remind everybody about the luck rankings and the success that was in NFL Week 4, 10, 1, and 1. And right now you can use the promo code LUCK for $20 off the annual price of an Action Pro and get access to every single week of Nick's picks as soon as he puts them in the app. And of course, the luck rankings plays that go along with it. Again, that's promo code LUCK for $20 off. And before we give you guys a one-way ticket to the island, we're going to talk a little bit luck rankings here. Nick, one game in particular, Monday Night Football, which obviously you'll be back on Monday to talk about it, but we want to get the best number out of the way. Saints, Kansas City, and this is a luck rankings game for the underdog Saints.
Yeah, so we're taking the Saints plus 5.5 versus Kansas City. The Saints, they rank 30th in our luck rankings. The Chiefs rank 2nd. So that 28 ranking difference is pretty important here. When there's at least a 28 place difference, the unlucky team is 23-12-1 against the spread. That's 65%. And if they are on the road, that jumps to 14-4 against the spread, 77.8%. So the Saints being the road team here have some pretty strong luck signals. The Saints right now are number 1 in the NFL in expected Pythagorean wins. So not raw Pythagorean wins, but expected Pythagorean wins based off our expected score. Kansas City ranks only 7th. And the Saints, they rank ahead of Kansas City in both offensive and defensive rushing DVOA and offensive and defensive passing DVOA. And that's based off what happened on the field. That also doesn't even necessarily include the fact that they've been unlucky there. So I love getting 5.5 points here for New Orleans. I make this closer to around 4 to 4.5.
Yeah, it really feels like Kansas City is a bit overvalued. Just they've been eking out wins. Now they're down Rashee Rice, no Pacheco. They're kind of mixing and matching, trying to piece it all together. And the Saints have looked really good this season. So I know there's one more luck rankings play that people can go check on the Action Network website to check out your article. You'll also be live on it's Thursday, so you're going to be live on Bet What Happens Live with Grant Neefer starting the 2-minute warning of this game. So obviously a lot of live plays to get involved on if you don't like stuff from a pregame standpoint. So definitely check that out for Nick and Grant. They've been doing great this season in general. But guys, Sean, Nick, talk to you guys in just a sec. Go grab your SPF 50. It's a bit sunny in St. Martin. We got an island to attend to.
Sounds good.
Sticking to the NFL, let's take a look at the most bet props over at BetMGM ahead of Thursday Night Football. The money has absolutely poured in on backup running backs in this one. If I can even say that about Bucky Irving, his rushing yards prop has been on the move and only continues to rise as the number 1 most bet prop. Tyler Allgeier's rushing yards, meanwhile, has also steadily risen throughout the week with Bijan nursing a hamstring injury. He was cleared for TNF, and his receiving yards ranks among the most bet props tonight as well. And as we often do here during primetime games, Brian Matthews is joining me to do a little 4-down territory here, B-Matt. We kind of got the groove going on, but I have a little audible since I'm the quarterback in this one. I'm going first. We're going to go with 4 picks. Obviously, each pick getting longer in odds. It's a pretty ugly game if I say so myself. It's kind of hard to get through all these props. It feels like maybe an under game brewing, but I'll start us off on first down. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go with a minus money prop here. Ray McCloud over 37.5 rushing and receiving yards. I went to the rush and receiving combo because he's had a rush in 2 of 4 games this season. It's already been on the move. I was looking at this at 35.5 about 30 minutes ago. Now it's 37.5. He's been over this number in 3 or 4 games this season. And the one time he didn't, 37 rushing and receiving yards. Tampa Bay, I just think this is a great matchup for him. A lot of blitzes, a lot of checkdowns are in order. Ray McCloud has a low A dot. He's been great in open space. He's been such a good safety valve for Kirk Cousins this season. And I think the key here is snap count. He's been on the field for 95% plus snaps the last 3 weeks. It's, one of those things that maybe the casual fans like, who the hell is Ray? Well, now you're going to know about McCloud. So I like him to get, even 40 plus rushing and receiving yards in this one. I think we're expecting 4 to 5 receptions, maybe a run as well. Usually prime times where the bag of tricks come out. So how do you feel about that one before we go on to second down?
I like that. I've got Ray in a play, so let's hope Ray makes it right there.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm hoping. I was not that confident. You come on, you're like, all right, I kind of like that. I'm like, all right, maybe I can feel better about myself right now because the vibes are not as high, but now they're getting better. You're up, second down. Where are you headed?
When we were on the touchdown show last year, I'd often go to some fellow Trojans, right? So let's keep that going. I'm not going to go with a touchdown here. I'm going to go Drake London over 5.5 or 5.5 total receptions. This is a line that he has cleared in his last 3 games this season. If you go back to his last 3 matchups against the Bucs, he's also cleared that in his last 3 games in that specific game. It's clear that he's developing a chemistry with Kirk Cousins. It was clear last year that Drake London needed to get the ball more, needed better quarterback play. Well, he's been making plays and rewarding Kirk Cousins for that. He's a big-bodied target that helps move the sticks. So I just think that this is a matchup. Vita Vea's back. It's running against this defense isn't always easy. So I think this is a nice way to start. So I'm going to go Drake London over 5.5 total receptions at plus 105.
Yeah, it feels like London's finally coming into his own with an actual quarterback under center. And meanwhile, Kyle Pitts' face is all over milk cartons because he hasn't shown up. And, based on first and second down right now, B-Matt, we're not expecting another good game out of Kyle Pitts if we're betting on Kyle London and Ray McCloud out of the slot. So third down, I'm going to go to Tampa Bay. We had enough Atlanta talk, at least for now. I'm going to go to Tampa Bay side of things, and I think that this player is still a bit undervalued, and it's Bucky Irving. And I don't think that, maybe not the rushing yards prop, because that one's taken off by like 5 to 10 yards based on the open at hand. But last week, Tampa Bay made a change, and it was putting Bucky Irving into the red zone packages. And what he do since, he had all 4 rushes, including the 3 inside the 10, converted 1 for a touchdown. So I think this is a great spot to just continue backing Bucky Irving because they're pricing him right around Rashad White. But when push comes to shove, inside the 10-yard line, I think they're going to give the ball to the better running back, and that's Bucky Irving. Rashad White will still get his receiving option, his receiving work, but you look at the numbers, stats don't lie. Bucky Irving, 5.8 yards per carry. Rashad White, 2.8. So push comes to shove, they're going to give it to the big boy, the rookie, and I think he's going to eventually take over as RB1 by season's end. So going with a touchdown here, plus 175, I believe, is best available. It's been on the move down ever since. I love Bucky Irving to get in the end zone.
I like it too, man. I'm looking at Bucky. They've got him priced to the spot where, like you said, it's like he's not the red zone back. But prior to last week, Rashad White had 100% of the red zone work. Last week, all went to Bucky. So, he rewarded them. They scored a touchdown. I think if he scores this week, it's probably the last week we see around this number.
Yeah, I can't imagine that, Rashad White works much at all inside of the red zone. Maybe just the 2-minute drill and all of that in general. But you're up. Fourth down. We've done 3 props under 2 to 1, so you got to take us with at least a 4th and long here. Where are we headed on 4th down?
Yeah, man, we must not think highly because I'm going on the defensive side of the ball here. So I'm going Yaya Diaby to record a sack. So it's plus 210. You can get this at multiple books, but Bet365 has it. As long as he records a half sack, you get a win. But look, this is a guy that, if you actually look at it, last year he led the Bucs in sacks with 7.5. Even though he recorded his first sack last week against the Eagles, he's got a 38% pass rush win rate, which is just insane that he's only got 1 sack, winning basically 4 out of every 10, available pass rush snaps. So he's getting pressure on the quarterback. I look at Kirk Cousins, who's coming back from an Achilles, and when you watch him try to move around, you go, I don't know if he's fully right. So I like Yaya Diaby to record a sack today, and I'm going to go ahead and make that the final pick at +210.
I love this one. I think it's hard to handicap, how Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, these numbers are so high. So why not go to the defensive side? And Tampa Bay, all their blitz-heavy approach for Kirk Cousins could lead to disaster. Yaya, in particular, as you point out, has been generating so many pressures and has yet to really take off in the sack department. Feels like a good buy spot in what kind of feels like an ugly game brewing for us on Thursday. I know I'll be having other plans. The Mets are on in a do-or-die game, and this game in general I think is not watch TV, but 4 props still for you on this one. We'll just recap it real quickly. On first down, I went Ray McLeod rushing and receiving yards, all reliable here on a blitz-heavy Tampa Bay. Maybe a little check down for Ray. B-Matt went with Drake London over 5.5 receptions at plus money. Kirk Cousins trusting the wide receiver 1 while Kyle Pitts remains at large. And then third down, we went to Tampa. Bucky Irving, anytime touchdown, the new red zone running back in Tampa Bay. And then B-Matt rounded us out with a defensive prop, I believe, the first one here ever on 4-down territory. Yaya Diaby to record a sack, at least a half a sack, and he gets it through at +210. So B-Matt, I'm feeling good about this one. I appreciate you hopping on, and we'll talk again very soon.
Likewise.
The battle of the NFC South tonight is for the number 1 seed in the division, but let's take a look at how these two teams have fared over the last 20-plus years. Since the division realignment in 2002, the Falcons have edged the Bucs 22-20 in terms of head-to-head matchups, but Atlanta remains the oldest professional franchise without a Super Bowl. The Bucs, meanwhile, have won in 2002, and then most recently in the COVID times with Tom Brady back in 2020, as now we welcome in Billy Ward to, as we always do, break down a same-game parlay for the primetime matchups on Monday and Thursday. A reminder before we start that Billy has the entire breakdown of his own SGP over on actionnetwork.com for deeper analysis, but I'm on here to throw out a leg to help juice up the odds a bit, so that's my role one right here. But Billy, I'll kick it to you first. Where are you headed for the base leg of our parlay?
Yeah, I'm starting with the Falcons -1.5. Kind of two different reasons that I'm looking at that. One is the luck ratings. I think anyone who's watched both these teams could probably guess that they've both been among the luckier teams in the league to arrive at the records they currently have. Tampa Bay has been luckier, though. They are a little bit farther up in those ratings. Check out Nick Giffen's piece over at Action Network to see. Not enough to bet it just based on that, but definitely pushes us in that direction. And then the other is just all the injuries to the Bucs. And it's not just that they've had injuries, it's that they're kind of clustered around a few key positions. They're missing a starting offensive tackle. 2 other offensive linemen are questionable and could be, less than 100% effective. Missing a starting defensive lineman. Other 2 starters are both banged up. And then their number 3 and number 4 wide receivers are also both out. Mike Evans was banged up this week. Just having those injuries all at one position means we're getting 5th, 6th string guys who have to play major roles tonight, which I think benefits the Falcons a lot.
Yeah, I definitely think that Atlanta has the edge in this one just based on injury report. Honestly, in general, you would think at home in a division matchup, the home team will kind of get the job done. But I'm here to juice the odds a bit in my second leg of the parlay. We were talking off air where I should head with this one, and we kind of ultimately settled on Bucky Irving over rushing and receiving yards rather than just receiving because, right, we're going with the Falcons, so receiving yards, the odds don't juice up as much. You throw in a little bit of rushing, and all of a sudden, the odds jump up significantly. So I like this number still for Bucky in general, 55.5. Listen, Bucky had taken over, kind of is starting to take over as the RB1 in this offense. He had 42% of the snaps last week. Todd Bowles made it known that he deserved an increase in snap share, and that's going to come, and I think it's going to continue to come when you look at the difference between the two in just terms of effectiveness. Bucky has over 3 yards per carry on Rashad White's name. He's had double-digit carries in 3 of 4 games this season. And of those with 30-plus touches, I broke this down over at PFF, Bucky ranks 6th in yards per attempt and 7th in breakaway percentage. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of checkdowns as well, just given the injuries to the offensive line. Mike Evans, maybe Bucky Irving gets a couple of screens, whatever it is. So I like taking the rushing and receiving here. I think he's going to be used heavily. I think we're going to see, double-digit touches for Bucky in this one, and he's been really effective in the early going here. So heading there for the second leg, juices up the odds a bit with a little bit of a anti-correlation against the Falcons -1.5. But you take us home, Billy. The last leg of the SGP is another Atlanta prop.
Yeah, I'm going Kirk Cousins under 229.5 passing yards. First of all, if we think that the Falcons control this game, that's a pretty good sign for the under. He's averaging less than 200 yards passing in the Falcons' 2 wins. They want to be a run-first team. They want to control the game on the ground. They don't always have that opportunity because of how the game script goes. And then the other part is if the Buccaneers front is as banged up as we think it is, that's going to lead to more rushing from the Falcon side too. Might be Bijan Robinson, might be Tyler Algier, depending on how healthy Bijan actually is. Either way, that takes the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands, leads to more passing, works out with the rest of our picks.
Yeah, it's really interesting trying to figure out the whole Bijan thing, because I was like, man, should we bet Tyler Algier's rushing yards? I know over on Action Network, you have Tyler Algier anytime touchdown as the 4th leg to juice up the odds on your SGP. It's really hard trying to read through the tea leaves in general on this one, but makes sense. And, obviously the Tampa blitz rate might also play a role in Kirk Cousins struggling, but going along the lines of a Falcons win, maybe a couple of big plays out of Bucky Irving, Kirk Cousins should not be passing and dropping back as much. So a reminder of the 3 legs of the SGP that we put together. But Billy went with Falcons spread and Kirk Cousins under on passing yards. I juiced up the odds a bit with a Bucky Irving combo on rushing and receiving. The 3 of them together over at Bet365 is plus 850. Billy, last week, or I guess Monday I should say, we did the SGP and we came just 19 or 18 yards short on JSN for a 20-1 SGP. I think the week before that we cashed, so we're doing well. I think this one also, it feels pretty good, doesn't it?
It does, and I appreciate your restraint because I was trying to talk you into Bucky Irving's alternate receiving yards, which is what cost us last time on JSN. So I'm glad that cooler heads prevailed on that one. It'd be very frustrating if we fell just a few yards short like we did on JSN.
Yeah.
Who had one called back, by the way, on that very questionable pick play that I think would have cashed it for us or would have been really close.
I know.
Just saying.
I know. It's so aggravating. And Geno Smith had such a high passing game, so the game script worked out perfectly for JSN to soar over and us to cash that 20-1, especially after Tyreek Hill had the end around just to start the game for 15 plus yards. But we'll see how this one goes. Plus 850 over at Bet365. Billy, appreciate you hopping on, and we'll see you again after the weekend.
Yeah, catch you on Monday.
And just another reminder that Bet What Happens Live will be live at the 2-minute warning of the Bucs and Falcons. The best way to bet this game might just be to bet it live based on what you're hearing from all of us. So if you want another option for a pregame SGP, aside from that pregame SGP, we have you covered. Good old St. Martin. The planes are loud, and we're trying to make through here on Action Island. I brought my sunscreen, brought my classic t-shirt, but listen, it's time to concoct a same-game parlay for this NFC South matchup between the Bucs and the Falcons. Can the Falcons win their divisional matchup and take over the #1 seed in the NFC South? Well, that question and much more will be answered by my panelists that I'm bringing on to the island. They already booked their trips. Yep, that's right. It's Nick Giffen, Gilles Gallant, Sean Koerner. The 4 of us are going to make a same-game parlay for this Thursday night matchup, help you get through what could be a little bit of an ugly game in general. Guys, if you're new to Action Island, here's how it'll work. Each of our 3 panelists, that's Nick, Gilles, and Sean, are going to give us a pair of props. So we're going to vote one in, vote one off between the 3 of us. We're a little bit of democratic here with how we're making this SGP, but of course, there are 6 legs that you can pick and choose just how you so please. We're going to start with Mr. Nick Giffen. Nick, I mentioned earlier you have another official prop that you were saving for Action Island, so give that one out and then the other pick as well.
Yeah, so we'll go with that official pick, and I'm going to take Bijan Robinson under 3.5 receptions. You can get that at plus 120 now. And look, I know he's gone over this number in 3 of 4, but He is dealing with a hamstring issue, which limited his snaps last week to just 64% of all snaps, which was down from over the 80s in weeks 1 through 3. And also, with Tampa Bay blitzing more, he may be needed to, a little bit more for pass protection as Tampa Bay is bringing extra men. Also, just the fact that Tyler Algier is a better pass blocker. PFF has him graded Algier as a better pass blocker both last year and this year than Bijan. So even on some of those passing downs, we could see a little bit more Algier than normal. So all of that combined, I like Bijan under 3.5 receptions. For my second pick for Action Island here, I'm going to go with the first half under 21.5 total points. Look, I know Sean was on the under for the full game, but I like the first half just as much. These teams average 4 seconds per play slower in the first half in neutral situations than they do in neutral situations in the second half. And if either team is leading in the second half by more than a score, or by 7 or more, then it's still at least 3 seconds per play slower in the first half than in the second half. So the under seems even more favorable in the first half than the second half.
So there you have it, the 2 picks that Nick is giving out. The official of Bijan under 3.5, which makes sense. Algier, season high, 2 receptions last week, starting to play a little bit of a role. Bijan nursing that hamstring injury. How healthy is he going to be? I know he was cleared off the injury report and is reported a full go, but, and then the first half under, Nick, it's really interesting. Atlanta in general likes to run the football. They haven't been able to fully take advantage of that at times based on game script, but early on you'd figure that they are able to kind of pound the rock and get more running plays to take the clock off a bit. All right, Gilles, Sean, we got 2 picks to decide between Bijan under or the first half under. Let's get to voting. All right, Bijan under or the first half under. Gilles, Sean, let's show them in 3, 2, 1. First half under, Bijan. First half under takes the cake 2-1. I just think, Nick's point about the game script and how neutral, they're a little bit slower in the first half really got me over the edge in this one. Plus, Bijan, maybe he might not see as many rushes because of the hamstring injury. I feel like they may still maybe use him in the pass game into open space with that Tampa Bay heavy blitz package. But Gilles, I want to know, you were the one that went against me and Sean on the first half under. What were your thoughts around picking Bijan over that first half under?
I mean, I'm just in on any bet that's a fade of Bijan Robinson in this offense because we have now seen him in 21 regular season games, 2 different head coaches, and nobody seems to know what to do with him. Like they don't really, the game that you bank on him to score a touchdown, he'll get 5 carries. The game that you bank on him to have 4 receptions, he gets 1 target. It's just, there's too much inconsistency with him that I think, especially when we're getting it at plus money, I love that bet.
Yeah, he's definitely been, it's definitely been angry if you're a Bijan Robinson fantasy owner this or last season. And I can't even imagine how people who then own Kyle Pitts also feel, because his face is on a milk carton as well, because no one knows what the heck he is doing. But Gilles, I went to you. You're up next for this one. Your 2 anytime touchdown picks for this matchup.
For sure. So I think on the Atlanta side, we have to take a Drake London at plus 175 because I still think the touchdown market as far as odds go just haven't come around on him. Now, obviously, he didn't score last week because no Falcons offensive player scored last week, but he's got 2 touchdowns in 4 games, 6 red zone targets. That's more than the rest of the Falcons players combined. And, the Bucs secondary, I think they've gotten a bit lucky in some of their matchups so far this year. When they faced the Eagles, they were missing their top 2 wide receivers. Bo Nix, he could barely complete a pass. Jaden Daniels in week 1, he wasn't really Jaden Daniels yet. So I think Kirk Cousins, especially with the interception prop that we like, I think he's going to try to throw a little bit more and test that Bucs secondary. I think London will get a touchdown. So that's the Falcons side. But on the Bucs side, I love Cade Otton to get a touchdown. 17 targets over the last 2 games. He's playing over 90% of snaps. He's seen at least 1 red zone target in each of the last 3 games. And the Falcons, they play a ton of zone, top 6 rate, and they don't really give up a ton of big receptions. only 4 completions of 20 yards or more. That's the fewest amount in the NFL. So I think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they're going to get theirs. But with Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan out, I think Otton is going to see a usage bump as a result. So I love him to score a touchdown in this matchup. So Cade Otton and Drake London are the 2 touchdown picks.
Yeah, Drake London's starting to see a ton of usage, a ton of targets, at least down the stretch here, and 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Hopefully he can keep it up. And then Cade Otton, you mentioned it, just he's getting the red zone targets. He just hasn't found the end zone at this price. It still feels like he's a bit cheap. So Nick, Sean, we have to get to voting. Do we ride with the Falcon London or do we ride with the Buccaneer Otton? Let's get to voting. All right, let's show between London and Otton. Nick, Sean, 3, 2, 1. Cotton, Drake, London. Oh, I see you guys finished each other's sandwiches, I was going to say. I tried to draw like toilet paper. I wish I voted for London because I would have drawn Big Ben or something like that, but you know, I wasn't too creative with the cotton hole thing. Listen, I wanted to juice the odds. You know how I am. I like the overs. I like the high priced. I think Otton is still cheap in this one. So that's why I went with him. Sean, I'll ask you, why did you end up with London over Cade Otton?
Yeah, just I've always been a big Drake London believer. My comp for him entering the league was like a smooth blend between Mike Evans and Keenan Allen. So he'll be going up against Mike Evans tonight. And I just think we're in the middle of a year 3 breakout with him. And we know that Cousins is going to get blitzed heavily tonight. And London's been his clear top target when facing a blitz. So I think London's going to have a big game tonight.
Yeah, it feels like London is going to get a lot of targets. Hopefully he can find the end zone because that is our second leg of the SGP. We got the first half under and then an anytime touchdown. Juicing the odds a little bit there with Drake London close to 2-1. All right, Sean, kicking it right back to you. You got 2 props for us to vote between. What are they?
Yeah, so I'm going with the full game under, 43.5, which I gave at the top of the hour. This is, you know, my official play for my Thursday night football preview. But, you know, Kirk Cousins just really been living in the pocket this season post his 2023 Achilles tear. And I think, you know, Todd Bowles, who already loves the blitz, is just going to take advantage of this and send the blitz even more because Cousins has really struggled when facing the blitz this year, likely due to his immobility following that, you know, pretty devastating injury. And he's going to be without his starting center, Drew Dahlman, who's on IR still. So it's going to be a tough matchup for him. And on the other side, you know, the Buccaneers offense has been humming. Baker Mayfield has looked great, but this is still a pretty conservative passing attack where new offensive coordinator Liam Cohen's having to get rid of it at the fastest rate of his career. He's not throwing it downfield much. So even these longer drives kill a ton of clock. And I already mentioned Ron Torbert will be the ref for this game. Most profitable ref since 2020. 62% of his games have stayed under. So a lot of signals for the under here. But I'll be nice. And I found an over that I do like in this game. Yeah. So it's Tyler Algier over 35.5 rushing yards. You know, the Falcons have played with the lead at the 6th lowest rate this season, and they've actually had the 2nd lowest time of possession overall. So in a game where, you know, they're 2.5-point home favorites. So if the spread is accurate, they might actually play with the lead at some point, which could lead to more rush attempts overall. But specifically for Algier, because Bijan Robinson's been dealing with his hamstring injury for about a week now. So on the short week, we could see Algier, you know, cut into his workload even more here. And Algier runs outside of the tackles at the 4th highest rate in the league. That's actually the type of run that this Tampa Bay defense has really struggled against. They're allowing 3.5 yards before contact on outside runs, which is by far the highest rate in the league. So this is a great spot for Algier to clear a 35.5 rushing yards.
Do we go and double dip with the under or do we get an over? Sean, it must really be vacation for me because you gave me an over. The sun is shining here on the island. I get an over to likely choose from. I think we know where I'm going to go with my voting. But, you know, Nick, Gilles, we still have to get to voting because it's a democracy and it's a best out of 3. So let's get there right now. All right, Tyler Algier, over or the full game under? Let's show him in 3, 2, 1. We all know where I was going. Algier, under.
Nice.
Algier, no breaks. There we go. All right. Nick ended up with the under. Kind of goes hand in hand with his first half under. Me and Gilles, true Bijan hater fashion, going with the over for Algier, fading a bit of Bijan Robinson. It kind of makes sense. So there's the 3 legs of the SGP. A quick recap of what those 3 legs are. We got Nick Giffen giving out the first half under of 21.5. Drake London, an anytime touchdown. That's courtesy of our anytime touchdown guru, Gilles Gallant. And then Sean Koerner with a nice prime time over on Tyler Algier in the rushing yards. You put those 3 together, you get plus 900 over on DraftKings. Nick, I'll kick it to you. How are you feeling about this SGP?
Yeah, well, real quick, the unders moved up half a point to 44 now. So, even better odds there if you're taking the under. So, I like the full game under. It gives more opportunity for the under to hit rather than just the first half. So, while I do like my first half one, which is part of the SGP, I like the full game under. That's why I went with that one. So, just a little quick aside on that. But feeling good about this one. To Gilles' point about Tampa Bay getting lucky, he didn't even mention the luck. He mentioned the other 3 games they played, but he didn't mention the luck they had against Detroit, where Detroit only scored 1 touchdown in the red zone in like 7 opportunities. And if Drake London's getting all that red zone looks, you got to think that's going to regress and give Drake London a good chance at a touchdown on this one.
Yeah, so that you put those 3 together, you get 9-1. I feel like this is this one feels right. We get a Charlie DiSturco-esque over. We get a touchdown from someone that's going to get a lot of production, and then of course we give you guys your unders. So you guys can book your tickets back to good old LA and Las Vegas and Canada. I don't know why I wanted to list out where you guys are all from, but anyway, Nick Giffen, Gilles Gallant, Sean Koerner, appreciate you guys hopping on, and best of luck tonight, my friends. And just a final reminder of that SGP, Nick Giffen giving out the first half total under 21.5. He also gave out Bijan, but that did not make the cut. And then Gilles Gallant with the Drake London anytime touchdown. That was voted in over Cade Otton. And then Sean Koerner's to the full game under. And Tyler Algier's over on rushing yards. Of course, you can mix and match as you choose, but our SGP over on Action Island, Green.Daily, is plus 900 over on DK. Can't let you go without my best bet for prime time, and I have to go toe-to-toe with this wheel, and so far things have gone my way. We can look back on Monday, both me and the wheel with overs in the Seahawks receivers department. The wheel had a sweat-free win with DK Metcalf. I had a not-so-easy win with JSN, but of course we both win. I still keep my 2-game lead on the wheel entering this Thursday night football, but full disclosure, I think this one is a great opportunity for the wheel to kind of take a 1-game lead. It feels like anything can go in this Thursday night football game, but I'm going to go with my favorite pick of this game, and it's Ray McCloud over rushing and receiving. We've already seen it take off a bit. You heard when I talked to B-Matt about my reasoning for this. He's on the field a lot. We're going to see a blitzing from Tampa Bay. That's what they do, and who's better than to break down that blitz than Ray McCloud underneath. He is the safety valve for Kirk Cousins in general. We've seen him go over, 57 in all 4 games. That 57.5 number is right where he went under because he had 57 2 weeks ago. But, I'm not going to get hooked, Maybe I will get hooked. I don't know. But I almost got hooked against JSN. Didn't hear. I like Ray McCloud to do some damage. As for the wheel's going to spin random. The wheel's going to spin chalk. Of course, Ray is there too. But let's see what the wheel does. Bucky Irving, rushing yards over. Looks like the wheel is kind of sharp today. This is not making me feel good, I'm going to tell you right now. Way too many people are on this rushing yards over. Maybe that's a good thing. It's the most bet prop at MGM, and it's like, well, Rashad White's still a thing, but I think Koerner likes, Bucky Irving to take over some more of the load. So I just got to hope that Bucky does not get efficient with his touches. Of course, the wheel going with Bucky Irving's over on rushing yards. I gave out the rushing and receiving with Billy Ward. My mind's all over the place with this one. It's going to be an interesting game in general. But Bucky Irving against Ray McLeod. We're going head to head. We'll have to see two different props, two different overs in what should be a pretty ugly Thursday night. I am up 2 games, so I do have a little bit of cushion, but the wheel with a sharp Thursday night pick, I must say so myself. And just a reminder that any pick we give out here on the show, like Ray McLeod's rushing and receiving over, you can easily reference by following us in the award-winning Action Network app under the handle at green.daily. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to be all for this Thursday. Enjoy the football, enjoy the playoff baseball. It's a winner-go-home game, so I don't blame you for watching that first. We have 55 consecutive days of football starting today, so get ready, strap in, and I'll see you all tomorrow, Friday at 3 Eastern on the Action YouTube channel and the Action app. Cheers.